Maybe. Hi. Welcome to Livecoding with me, Rachel. We've been working for some time on the same project, and I'm waiting for the stream to catch up, and it hasn't yet, and I'm a little bit worried. Okay, excellent. Okay, it's starting. That was an exciting moment for me. Oh, nope. Wait, sorry. That's going to sound awful. Should be fixed. Sorry about that. Good news. Everything's working. Bad news. I'm sleepy. No, it's fine. It'll be fine. So, we are working on a project that we've been working on for a while, which is basically we have redone the New York Times Dialect Quiz, which is this guy. And you go through, and in the original quiz, you answer a bunch of multiple choice questions. And in our version of the quiz, it's a virtual assistant, and you get asked a bunch of questions, and then you answer them. And then at the end, we say what 3 states you're most likely to be from. So what we're going to be working on today is getting the assistant that we have on to Rasa X. So if you are unfamiliar, hello, Osvaldo, welcome to the stream. So if you're unfamiliar, the way the sort of Rasa development process works, I mean, you can do it a bunch of different ways. What we recommend is that you use Rasa open source and your IDE of choice, like we have been, to develop the prototype of your assistant. And then once your assistant is good to go, you want to get it in front of users as quickly as possible so they can start, test users, I should say, not like launch to prod for everybody. So they can start giving you feedback, and you can look at how, their conversations went, and use that information to improve conversations, improve your assistant rather, over time. Let me move my mic a little bit, so I'm a tiny bit louder. There we go. So we have our assistant up and working in our IDE. We've been interacting with it in the shell, and now we are ready to move it into Rasa X and get it ready to go. I will say, by the end of today, I do not expect to have the assistant fully migrated. And the reason for that is, right now I have my Rasa X instance up and running, but I don't have an action server running. So I'm going to need to create that at some point. And it's pretty straightforward to do, actually. When I created the Rasa X server instance. So this is, I should say, this is running on Kubernetes on GCP, and I am just, accessing it using my browser. When I created this, I used the one-line deploy script that uses a Helm start to create your cluster. And when I did that, I did not create my action server, so I didn't, specify an image for it. And the action server is what does the quiz, so asks all the questions. I'm using a form for that, and that runs on the action server. And then also does the actual classification once you're finished the quiz. So the majority of the assistant will not work today, but I want to get it set up so that the conversation part of it works, and test it out with the sort of conversation stories that don't require the form, and then write tests for those stories. So that's my my goal, and this is how you would do that if you had an assistant that didn't need an action server for whatever reason. Benjamin says hi from Argentina. Hello from the United States. All right. So when you first launch your Rasa X instance, you get a nice little walkthrough. So let's just do the walkthrough. I like a good product onboarding. So one thing that we are going to do today is we're going to connect Rasa X to Git. So I have my assistant in a GitHub repository, and I have restructured the repository so it should be able to connect to my Rasa X instance seamlessly. Gosh, I hope it do. Otherwise, I'm going to be upset. And then, are we going to get another one if we close this? Nope, that's the important one. Fair enough. So, once we have that, we can talk to our assistant, as long as we're not using the action server for anything. The NLU inbox is where you see sort of like the output of the NLU from all the people who've used your assistant, and you can go through and annotate and check for mistakes. Models, I believe by default when you import an assistant, I believe by default the models are not brought in unless you ask for it specifically. I'm like 80% sure. That might have changed since the last time I imported an assistant. It's been a little bit because I've been really focused on prototyping. And then all of the data and stuff, your config, your domain, your stories, your data that you would put in your IDE version, also you can add to here. All right, let's connect. So I have the assistant on GitHub, as I mentioned, and the link is in the YouTube video, and I'm also going to check in with it just really quick so you can see it. And then I'm going to hide my screen so I don't show you secret keys, is the thing that I'm going to do. So there's going to be a bit of this where I'm just going to be doing stuff that you can't see, and sorry about it. All right, so here is the GitHub repo. Oh, right, that's my that's my last commit message. I deleted something that hopefully it was fine to delete. We'll find out. Yep, so here's the assistant, and I am going to kick it off. I'm going to connect to a repository, and it is at this point that we will go to secret stuff. Secret stuff. You can still see me. So what I'm going to do is actually this first bit I can show you back to here. So I'm going to my code and I'm getting the SSH key. And then you won't see this link if you don't have, what is it, GitHub Desktop for Windows specifically. Back to secret stuff. So I'm pasting this in the first link that says SSH URL for repository. Target branch is master, and then I'm going to copy the SSH key, which you did not see all of. And then in my GitHub repository under, let me double check, I don't have any. Okay. Under settings here at the top, and then deploy keys, this is where you add your key, and this is to allow you to make changes back to your GitHub repository from your Rasa X assistant. Back to secret stuff. I hope you like my my very good key hiding system, and I'm just going to call this Rasa X August 5th. I always like to put the date that I create the key in the key name. I don't know why, it just makes me feel better. Oh, and I need to confirm my password. Yeah, okay, fantastic. And now that I've done that, my SSH key has been added. I can go back to Rasa X, hit verify the connection. It's verifying. Button's thinking to itself. MM Bolton says, the volume is louder in secret. Oh yeah, it would be. Ooh, sorry, that's very peaky. My apologies. Let me make sure. There we go. That should be a little bit more equalized. Excellent. I don't actually need to be there anymore. Excellent. So now we have our repository connected. And let's train our bot. Yeah, so you can see there's been no trained models imported. I could upload one, but I'm also good to just train. Beans. I was really hoping that would fix the problem. And thanks for letting me know about the levels, y'all. We appreciate that. Yeah, right. No training data, NLU data. No responses, okay. No stories, You'll need to upload a model and activate it. All right, let's try that really quick. And I don't know where this is going to open in my file system, so I'm going to upload a model from files instead. So there is an API. Where did I keep this? Excellent. I did. Sorry, I'm just clicking through my file system to find the specific file that I'm looking for. All right, there we go. So in in my folder, wow, where my Dialect Quiz is, it's called Dialect Quiz Bot. I have, as you can see, a bunch of models. So I'm gonna upload that and we'll see how it do. All right, model upload successful. I want to set this to active so that I can use it. Up and running, okay. Let's talk to it and see how it goes. So I'm gonna move me so you can see how we're talking to it. Okay, so far so good. And our assistant starts with us greeting it, so we're gonna say hi. And one thing you might notice is that I added some text to this, so people who use this assistant should know that I'm creating this on a live code, so I'm going to be going through the data on a live coding session, so I want people to know that that might be something. Benjamin said, is it always recommended to use Keras policy? No. The specific one to choose is going to depend on your situation. I think right now we're recommending TED for most cases. I was having dependency issues getting that to run on Windows. But because this assistant is running on a Linux VM, what I could do is, what am I trying to say here? What I could do is use TED here because it's going to be running on Linux, so I don't have to worry about the Windows dependencies, even though my, local operating system is Windows, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Okay, and in this screen, you can see sort of what's going on under the hood. So the first thing that the assistant does is it listens, it waits for input. And then we said hi, and this was identified as the intent greet with confidence 0.98. Pretty high confidence and also correct. That was an intent. And then the assistant says, starts the quiz, and then they start listening. And if I say yes here, it's going to reach for the action server that's not there. So I'm going to say no thank you instead, which it takes as a deny, and then says, you're welcome. So that is correct, looks good, and I don't think I want to save the story right now. But if I was trying to sort of go through the assistant path in a new way and add that to my training data, I definitely could. But I think for now it's working correctly, so that's great. And let's restart and go through again. And this time we're going to hit the action server. And it should just sort of what I'm expecting is that I will get some error messages, and then I will be told that all my slots are none and that my dialect sounds like none. So we will see how this goes. I was thinking. Yeah, excellent. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. So it runs the elicitation form, which requires the action server, which we don't have. So I'm not asked the questions. And then it tells me the values for all my slots. So here is what the answers would be to all the questions that I did in the quiz. And as you can see, if you've been watching for a while, if you remember last time, the spacing was odd, and I went back and fixed that just real quick. So that's fixed. And then we run the detect dialect action, which requires the, again, the action server to actually run the classifier, which is not possible, but it does trigger the action and the action just doesn't run. And then we see what the result of the quiz is, and because the action server wasn't run, it's its default value, which is none. And then it has action listen. So this story is actually correct. Everything happened the way that I expected to. Fantastic, 10 out of 10. The big problem here is obviously that the meat of the assistant, the code that we need to run to actually ask people the dialect quiz questions and then tell them what their answers are, is not there. So that's for the future. All right, looking good, looking good. I wanted to oh, and you can see that my conversations have been saved here, so I can go back and check those out in the future if I need them. And what I wanted to do was write some tests, and I could have sworn that used to be right in here. So I'm just gonna quickly Google it. Rasa X, write tests. Test your assistant. When to create tests. When you start to write stories, you should also write test conversations. All right, so I'm just gonna pull this over so we can read through it together. So why do we want tests? So what I did was sort of a test, and I went through and I was like, okay, here's what I expect to happen, and I just checked to make sure that the things I expected to happen did happen. And like I mentioned, the stories are correct. So my assistant was doing the things that I expected it to do in the order that I expected it to do them, even though it couldn't actually complete the actions because it didn't have the action server. One sec, let me. Oh, good to see you. Balamarugan? I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. My apologies. I only know, like, I'd say like 1.75 languages. And the like 0.5 is American Sign Language, so that doesn't really offer me a lot of additional information about ways that things might be pronounced. Rachel, didn't you spend a lot of time studying how things might be pronounced? Yes, but not like practicing them. Looking at spectrograms mostly. Anyway, professional teams don't ship applications without tests. That's true. Tests are great. All right, when to create tests. Yep. How to create tests. So, talk to your bot, interactive learning. When you're trying out a change in Rasa X and it works as expected, take the extra step and click the Save End-to-End Test button to create a test that will make sure you always check that your assistant works like that in the future. You can save real conversations as tests in Rasa X, so successful conversations can become tests right away. When you review a successful conversation, click the Save End-to-End Test button to create a test that checks your assistant can still handle conversation correctly in the future. You won't be able to see them in the UI, but they will show up in the tests directory of your project. So it'll be saved to GitHub. All right, so we should be able to, where was it? It was in the conversations here. Maybe it's because I'm zoomed way in. Marcus reviewed. Save for later. So this is actually two conversations. So I don't necessarily want to save this as a test. Storytell now. Save to end test. Slot still privacy true. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm seeing a little bit more clearly. So this is what I'm looking for. Let's try a new conversation and see if I can find the thing. So we're gonna talk to our bot. All right, end-to-end story. Oh, I see. I was in the wrong tab. Okay, so once you have the story you want, save it end-to-end. Excellent. Okay, and then that was the old story, and then the first story. Can I get to it somehow? Or do I always see the most recent story? Alright, so it looks like I always see the most recent story. Sorry, there's not a great place for my face to be. How about that? Okay, so let's restart and try the same story that we had at the top where we choose not to go through the assistant. Enrique says, you should learn Spanish. Very difficult to find pre-trained models in Spanish. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's one of the languages that Spacey supports. But yes, in general, I would agree that no. All right, excellent, and that is what I'm looking for. Save that as test. Excellent, and now we have tests for. I think we only have one more thing that I wanted to test, which is if someone asks if it's the assistant. So let's restart. Are you a bot? This should be corrected. So it should say. Oh my gosh, do I have to remember what the name of the... That ain't right. Is it because I'm real zoomed in? No. Can I edit this? No. So what it should say is I am an assistant powered by Rasa. So let's check, not in config, in domain. So there should be something that the assistant says when asked if it's an assistant, and it should be utter I am bot. So that's what we want it to say when we ask if it's the assistant. Back to our conversations. Anyway, the thing that I have been trying and failing to say for a very long time. Oh, I created a second one. Interesting. Here we go. So the thing that we want it to say is utter I am bot. That is correct. And then, okay, what do I want to say there is probably utter start quiz. And just go back to the front. And then the next thing that it needs to do is listen. And actually I need to click yes for that to happen. And then no, I don't want to take the quiz. So the action that I actually want is no worries. Sorry, utter no worries is I believe what I called that. Nope, that's not what I called it. What I keep trying and failing to say is that NLP has a really strong English language bias, which is not great because that is not the only language in the world, as it turns out, and many people, no worries, no space, gotcha. And many people, there we go, do not speak English, and if you only ever, rewind, okay. I want to remove this. Okay, and then utter no worries. There we go. Sorry, so what I'm just doing here is I am interacting with the assistant as a user might to try and make it, and I'm going to save that as a story, to try and cover more different paths that they might have when interacting with the assistant. So I'm pretending to be a user. And then once I share it with folks, it will be hopefully better to use. Questions. Oh, wow. Evan says, can we connect a Rasa project without having a word vector in the NLU configuration? Oh, sorry. Can we connect to a Rasa project having a word vector in the NLU configuration? Yes. Like word vectors in your pipeline? Yeah, you should be able to. If you're looking for an example of that, probably the best place to look would be on our GitHub, where we have a bunch of different sample projects. Benjamin says, if you configure the model well, the bot works well in Spanish, and the data is important. Yes, very much so. So the benefit of using a pre-trained model in your assistant, so I would consider word vectors to be a pre-trained model, something like BERT or a big transformer language model, although generally I think those are too big to really, I would prefer personally something like Convert, which is specifically for conversation A, and B, much smaller and lightweight. Also, it's something that we support in Rasa, is that you have the benefit of sort of a warm start, if you will. So the training data that you provide is used for fine-tuning your assistant, but you have sort of more broad information about how whatever language it is that you're using is used in a variety of other contexts. If those contexts are not super helpful or relevant to you, it may not actually help. So an example would be if I was working on a Portuguese assistant and I had, a language model that had been trained on, let's say, a lot of 14th century Portuguese, because there's a lot of like texts online that can be used for free that are much older. And then my users are not using 14th century style Portuguese to talk to my assistant. It's probably not going to work quite as well, if that makes sense. So the sort of the distribution of the training data, both for pre-training the models that you're using as part of your pipeline, and also for the specific interactions that you're providing your assistant to learn from, are both important. Yeah. Wow, I'm a little all over the place this morning, but you're asking such good questions. Enrique says, I trained a model from a dataset in Kaggle taken from an electronic book reader. Hope it was legal. I would say check the terms of the data reuse. So in the United States, copyright, anything published before 1924, I believe, is in the public domain. And we're going to catch up soon. Because it used to be a much shorter period. It was like the life of the author, and then it was sort of extended a little bit. And so we were in that period where we were sort of like coming to the end of that period, so things weren't coming into copyright. And I think last year we just booped, so that now it's moving behind us, so more and more things will come into public domain. But yeah, I'm not a copyright lawyer. I sort of know some things about copyright. That's not the same thing. But if it was 14th century texts, which are absolutely out of copyright, you should be good. Not that I'm saying that we should all, really, really lean into the 1300s. What would that be? Tudor England? War of the Roses? I don't know, man. Okay, definitely before we did a bunch of colonizing in North America. So, what have we done so far? We have had some conversations with our assistant. We've gone through different types of ways of going through. We've saved them as tests. So if I go to my repository, nope, I should see, Now see, this is not the way that I expect this repository to look. Master, right? Yeah. Okay, so the reason that I'm frowning right now is the way that I expect this to look is all of our config domain NLU folder should be in the top level of the domain. So all of this should have been one level up, but it connected well. It's the old README, 20 hours ago. That is when I did my big old updating. Something's funky. Yeah, okay, well, I'm gonna have to double check. Oh, was Zoom playing it? I'm gonna have to double check the versions. Okay, so I think we are good to go there. We've gone through my my to-do list pretty quickly, even with me getting tangented a lot. And the next thing that I'd like to do is actually go back to our IDE. Something was happening when I was using my assistant that I noticed, and I only did 2 run-throughs, so I'm just gonna, you know, maybe it's not a thing, but the thing that I noticed was every time I ran my assistant and ran the quiz and got the answers from the quiz back, I got the same answer. Like every time I got the exact same answer, and that's making me feel uneasy. So all I just want to do real quick is just run through it with the action server and just make sure that I'm getting different answers. Because it's making me nervous that I am getting the same answers every time. Because it's a probabilistic model, right? So if I'm not giving the exact same answers every time, I should not be getting the same output every time. Especially because it's, 51, because it has a District of Columbia included, it's 51-way classification. So the probability that I will get the same top 3 every time is extremely low, and I'm nervous about it. Okay, so we have the action server running. The next thing that we're going to do in Rasa X, probably next Wednesday, is going to be to get the action server running in our Kubernetes cluster as well, so we can actually do the whole thing with all the fancy bits, and not just have our conversations that don't require the action server. But for now, let's just really quickly run through a conversation using the action server and the version. Also, this is what I expect my assistant to look like on GitHub, and maybe I'm in a weird branch. I'll deal with it later. So let's go through and take the whole quiz as it will be once we have the action server up in our Rasa Assistant cluster. So you can see I've done the changes. So here's the most recent version. Folks know that your answers might be seen publicly when you answer this. So sure, let's do it. Love to take a dialect quiz. And for this one, I'm going to pretend that I'm from Seattle and see if I can answer this in a Seattle way. So potato bug is the thing that people would say up here. It's a little bit, it's getting a little bit rarer because there's a lot of immigration to the region from other parts of the U.S. They're definitely soda folks up here. There's a little bit of pop influence. Let's actually go with pop. I think that's going to be more distinctive. Definitely not y'allers up here, so probably just like you, I think is what I hear most often, or you guys. Different or the same, definite merger up here. Also, this little lag when I ask each question, I say this every time, there's like a Windows thing for when it connects to localhost and like specific ports that introduces a lag, and there's a big discussion about it in the forums, and there's a way to fix it, but it's just like futzy, and I can't be bothered. I'm too lazy. But it is a Windows localhost specific issue, so we should not see the same amount of lag in our assistant, which I mean we didn't because we used Rasa X today and it was snappy. Oh, is there a Washington State? Sun showers, maybe? I don't think I've ever heard anybody here talk about it. So I'm just trying to guess. What would somebody up here say? They don't really have them here. Like, it's not a thing you can order at a restaurant or anything, like it is down south. I think crawfish is the most neutral, so that's probably the one that they'd say. Again, I don't think there's a term for that here. Oh, there might be. Is there a Scandinavian thing like this? There's a lot of Scandinavian immigration up here. I'm gonna say no word for that because I'm pretty sure that that's the most common answer across all of the U.S. What do you call a long sandwich? What do people up here call that? Probably just a sub. Oswaldo says Cameron? Cameron? I don't know what that means, sorry. What do you call a small road that runs parallel to the highway? See, there's a lot of things that, like, I have no idea what somebody from Washington would say. Oh, side road. That's okay. My big thing is that I'm trying to give answers that I wouldn't give when I was taking the quiz normally to see if I can get different answers. And I believe the top 3 that I got were, like, Michigan, Alabama, and one other one. Or Massachusetts something and then Alabama. Sneakers, maybe? Oh, shrimp. Oh, okay. What would people call 5? Highway 5? Interstate? Maybe interstate? You can tell I'm not from here. What do people call that? I think yard sale. I don't think they call it anything else. Because I'm thinking about, like, the signs I've seen on the street corners. I think it usually just says yard sale. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone up here talk about rubbernecking. I don't think that's a term here. Oswaldo, highway. Yeah, I'd probably say highway. Definitely boy. Nobody up here says lawyer. That's more of a southern feature. This is a good one. So I know that there's a term for a barn dance as like a pedestrian crossing where you can cross all ways. I think maybe just diagonal. Enrique says crab. They don't look like crabs. Here, I'll pull up a picture. They are also freshwater. I'm going to show a picture of an animated crustacean, so just be aware. This one is definitely dead. They're not this color until they're cooked. There you go. I would say that they are not my favorite to eat. I don't love seafood and shellfish in general. People here would definitely say firefly. And they're, I don't know. The folks do this stuff where like they suck the meat out of the head and like, ugh. Not my favorite. What do you call the area of grass between the sidewalk and the road? I've definitely heard people talk about this. I'm trying to remember what they call it. Maybe an easement? Maybe? Because I think in Washington State, property lines extend to the middle of the sidewalk. Maybe? Drive-through liquor store. No idea. They don't have them here. I don't believe there's any local term. Enrique says river crab? Yeah, they're a little bit crab-like. I can see it. We actually found this out last time. They're indigenous to North America and also New Zealand. Somebody said it. And Bolton says parking strip. Oh, I wish I had know that. Thank you. I'm from Seattle. I didn't know rubbernecking until I moved to the Midwest, and then parking strip. I wish I had see that a little bit earlier. What do you call the thing you drink water from in school? I'm guessing just like water fountain. I think that's the most widespread term. Osvaldo, undergrowth? Maybe? Yeah, Seattle, I guess there's blackberries. I was trying to think like what the undergrowth is because there's a lot of sort of old growth forest here that doesn't have a whole bunch. Yeah, okay, so this is, I believe, the same thing that I have been getting previously. So Massachusetts, Washington, and Alabama. Why? This is not right. Did I not turn on logging? Sure didn't. Oh. Good job, Rachel. 10 out of 10. Okay. Yeah. Something's up. Let's check our actions and see what... Because one thing what I could have done... It's thinking. I wrote it. I don't think it has harmful code in it. All right, so let's just run through here real quick. Okay, yeah, so this is the same thing. Oh, right, yeah. So it's gonna be in model. Oh, that's right, I took out the sample data. Because I don't have permission to share the data, so I removed it. Okay. That's fine. Okay. We can use the encoding data. It's not going to give meaningful answers, but we can use it. Okay. Get top 3 canon. Gonna have a problem. Let's... What does scope look like in Python? Okay, not like that. Sorry, my question was, can I reference something that was assigned in scope, out of scope, in a function outside of a function? And the answer is no, which I think honestly was my intuition. I just thought it was worth a shot. All right, and because we're doing one-hot encoding, a data frame with all zeros should still be like meaningful input. Name joblib is not defined. Did I not read this? We need to update all of these. I mentioned that I restructured my files, which is why we are having this issue, maybe? All right, so that should be fixed. What's called model bits. Okay. And then this should be type it correctly, model bit. So I'm just correcting all of these file paths so they point to the right place. What I do. Right. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Almost slashes are backwards, huh? That's gonna be a problem. Gonna fix those real quick. Rachel, what's Windows development like? I'm better at it some days than others. Okay, now we should be able to do this. Hopefully. We could not. Model bits. Perhaps this is the cause of our problems. Hello, Hairzone, I'm guessing. And Ayush, can you summarize what you've done so far? Just joined. Yes. So, a lot. What we're working on right now is we have a KNN classifier that we have created and pickled, serialized. We're not pickling. It's pickling is serializing, not all serializing is pickling. And we're loading it into another directory so that we can use it to classify user input. And I have noticed testing my assistant, so we take a little quiz, all of our answers to the quiz are fed into the classifier, that I'm always getting the same answers out, which is wrong. We should get different answers out when we put different answers in. And I'm trying to figure out the underlying cause of this. And that's what we're doing now. So I think one thing that I could... Oh. Never mind. We're in the exact... I didn't need to futz with any of this. Okay. So what I was doing was changing my... where my file directory read in path pointed, and we don't need to. It's in the exact same directory as the rest of this. So just get rid of all that. Just yeah. Undo all the things what we just did because I was wrong to do them in the first place. Yeah, and this is we've been working on this project 1 or 2 times a week since February, in there. So it should be fairly, there's a lot of stuff. And then usually the live coding happens Wednesdays and Fridays at this time, which is 9 a.m. Pacific, until I get bored and have other stuff to do. See, that's that, This is the problem. This is what we're getting. We're always getting the exact same. I have an inkling as to why we might always be getting the exact same thing. So, if this is the problem, I'm going to be so mad. So the way that we're doing our one-hot encoding is we have the wide version. So in one-hot encoding, every answer in every answer that you can give in a column is turned into a yes/no question, and then each of those yes/no questions is turned into a new column. So if I have like pet species and it's like dog, cat, rat, then I'm going to turn that into 3 columns: dog, yes, no; cat, yes, no; rat, yes, no. And then each row will have a 1 in the columns where it is and a 0 in the columns where it is not. And so we have like a really wide data frame, and we are using that to create the necessary columns for our user input. And I think what is happening is we are throwing away the encoded version of the user input and using the empty version of the user input. So let me just give this a little peek sneak. Okay, so here we are taking not this one. So it's when we do the encoding. Align. Do we want... Let's put this in a new cell so we can run through it line by line. Okay. And I'm going to comment this out, and we're just going to print the encoded data. Oh, input data is not defined. Let's do... Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the... I'm going to go get some sample data, and then I'll delete it before I update my repo, because I do need it to check this out. So it's in the business end. Yes, please save. We're going to a different thing. Sample case data. Just going to copy that real quick. Go back to the Dialect Quiz. in the model bits. We're going to paste that. Hopefully I can remember to get rid of it. Yes, that's where I want it to be. All right, and then you can see that there's sample data in there. Back onto the pipeline. Ayush says use in carets, or what are these? Pointy brackets? Inside read CSV. This will not cause the slash issues. Just found your channel from LinkedIn. Your videos are very interesting to me. Oh, thank you. Ayush says, what does Git Dummies do? Great question. So that is... Why did I take my glasses off? Because I was upset. We'll find out. So Git Dummies is a way to do one-hot encoding. So if you have a file with multiple rows, and let's say like in the rat, cat, dog discussion, Git Dummies will be like, oh, there's 3 cases in this column, so we're going to turn each of those into a column. The problem is the input data only has one example for each row. So the input data is one row because each user is only answering the quiz once. So what we're doing is we're like, okay, we're going to one-hot encode this, and it just turns it into a data frame that's the same size as the input data frame. And for our classifier to work, it needs to know all of the answers that it is not, right? It needs information for all of the input classes, which means all of the possible answers. So Git Dummies is like, hey, treat this as one hot encoded, and then a line is we have this really long data frame that has all of the columns that we showed to our classifier, and a line just sort of separates them and then creates NAs, and then this is converting those NAs to zeros. That's the idea. So we're just gonna say the input data is, that's not where I wanted my mouse to be. What? Okay. What? Sorry, I'm putting my cursor in a place and trying to type something, and it is, as you can see, going to somewhere else in my notebook. Don't like that. Yeah. Can I do it here? Yeah. Can I do it here? Yeah. Can I do it here? Yes. Okay, fine. I think I have corrected it. I think it had something to do with me having the notebook open in two separate windows. Sensor 807 says, have you ever worked with open office spreadsheets? Yeah, quite a bit. That's my office suite of choice when I am working locally. Enrique says, change the title of this video to a little bit of Rasa X. Yeah, it turns out that Rasa X is very easy to use and did not take that much time. Yeah, this is the interesting thing about this series. The chatbot building part is pretty straightforward. It's really the classifier that's taking up the most time, but I can't apologize for it being easy to use. I'm sorry. Next week when we start talking a little bit more about futzing with the Kubernetes cluster, I think that will be another thing. But then that's Kubernetes. It's not like Rasa X specifically. So, all right. Yes, that's me. And then the C. Nope. You're not gonna tab complete it for me, huh? Sample case. Nope. Data.csv. Did that work? Sure didn't. Why not? Sample case data.csv. it has restarted my dang... it restarted my notebook without me knowing about it. Very weird. Okay, and here we get that same output, Massachusetts, Washington, Alabama. And we've already written it in, so we can just say sample data. All right. And what do we got here? We got a bunch of NANs. Yes, 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 yes. 1 row times 172 columns. 172 is the number of columns that we are looking for. Yeah. No, that does look right. All right, so we've got encoded data, and then we got to do the thing that we do up here, which is fill in A's with zeros. Okay, and then let's just print the encoded data. Yeah, that looks right. All right, encode answers, and let's try the get top 3 here, but instead of encoding sample, we're going to do it with sample data. And we get a different output. So this is right. This is not where the error is occurring. Let's look at our actions real quick. Classifier pipeline, KNN. This is the right one. I've deleted the XGBoost one that we tried and didn't work great, so that's not the problem. Cho says, can Rasa be installed and used on Google Colab? So the trick there might be that we require a specific directory structure. So you can see over here, for your assistant to work, you're going to need a config YAML, credentials YAML, domain YAML, inputs YAML, and then some of these things are extra things that just this assistant needs, but under data, NLUMD, and stories MD. And as I recall, the last time I used Colab, having a full directory structure was a little bit tricky that you could interact with, but you can give it a shot. It might work. It might require some futzing. Ayush says, is this a rule-based chatbot? No, it is a little bit more flexible. So the specific policies that I'm using here are actually not the most recent policies that we've used. And policy is what decides what the assistant will say next. So that's the bit that's usually rule-based. So it's in my config. So I have a couple policies. So memoization is if I've seen this exact conversation in the training data, keep having that conversation. Fallback is if your NLU confidence is too low or all of the options are sort of equally, none of the other options are super, likely to fall back and ask for clarification. The form is probably the part that's most rule-based, and that is where we are asking a bunch of questions for the quiz. And then the mapping policy is sort of the more probabilistic deep neural network based policy that sort of like puts things together. And we the sort of more recent policy is a TED policy, which is transformer based, but I've been having trouble getting it to work on Windows because of the TensorFlow text dependency. So if I were not, and I will say I haven't tried to install it in a little bit, but if I were not working in Windows, I'd probably use that. Or Convert, which is another transformer-based policy. So we're open source, very flexible, easy to use, different policies together. YAML is just text markdown format. It's like it's not exactly like HTML. It's more like Markdown, but slightly different. YAML stands for YAML ain't Markdown language. It's YAML fully. One of those fun recursive acronyms that computer scientists loved so much. Since I have no idea how to split cells in OpenOffice, a little bit out of my purview, I would ask on the OpenOffice forums. People tend to be pretty helpful there. So, good luck. Yeah. Ayush says, can it work on Ubuntu? Yes, it will be easier on Ubuntu because you don't have to futz with the window installs issues quite so much. So, yeah. We support Windows, but I would say Linux and Mac are a little bit more of a first-class experience because we have a lot of TensorFlow dependencies, and Linux and Mac are more of a first-class experience with TensorFlow, which if you have worked with them quite a bit, if you work with TensorFlow quite a bit, I think is not a surprise to you. So, what was I doing? I was in model bits. I was looking at my actions folder. Right. So the actions is run on a separate server that we still don't have set up with Rasa X, but we will. And I'm trying to figure out encoded data 1, fill in A, recurrent encoded data. And is this exactly the same as it is in our sample pipeline? Let's see. Encoded data 1, encoding sample, and then the input data. I'm going to close all of these. Don't need them right now. Peace out. Goodbye. Not looking at you right now. Not looking at you right now. Where's my actions? Okay. Encoding sample, input data, left 1. Encoding sample, input data, left 1. All right, yeah, no, that's exactly the same. And then we're taking, 1, because the first one's going to be the encoding sample, which is all zeros. Okay, so I don't think the problem is in the encoding data, because it works locally and it's all exactly the same. And then in the top 3, load the model, predict the probabilities of the model, np sort pred access 1, 030, np sort pred access 1, negative 3? Ooh. No, that's, so this is saying we're gonna take the top 3, or the 3 most likely things, and I think it's automatically sorted lowest to highest, so the last 3 is gonna be the highest probabilities, and then results. Okay, so this is just going through and getting the name of the states that have the highest probability, because at this point they are just numbers, and we are mapping those numbers to states. The states can name for I in top 3. I in top 3, yeah. Result 0 to list, yeah. Result 0 to list. Ayush says, have you tried WSL? No. That's not entirely fair. I've tried futzing around with it quite a bit, and I've ran into some wrinkles, but I know that there either is going to be soon or just was a pretty major update, so I'm going to probably next week spend some more time working on that, because I'm working on a tutorial to get Rasa X running locally on Windows, and right now it is a little bit of a mess for a number of reasons, so yeah, I'm working on it. It's on my to-do list. Oswaldo says, installing some Linux distribution. Yeah, so the reason that I'm not just, dual booting and using Ubuntu on this computer is, a lot of the software I use for live streaming has a Windows dependency, because it's all built for gamers and they assume you're on Windows. And B, because a lot of Rasa users have to use Windows for their work, so I want to make sure that I am, recreating their experience. Sorry, I just had a... Is my indenting completely wrong? Okay, no. Oh, we just couldn't see the end. Okay. I could just see this, and I was like, no wonder it's not working. My syntax for functions is 100% wrong. Yeah. Okay. So, it's always giving the wrong answers. Why is that? So, classifier pipeline KNN, this one. Get top 3 KNN, formatted response. Could it be something to do with the tracker? Do I need to reset the tracker every time? So the tracker is what maintains the history of the state of the conversation, so you can refer to it later, and stores things like slots. Could this be where I'm getting the same answers? Getting old data from, question mark? God. Although, okay, so here's the thing. I know from the testing that we just did that you will get those 3 answers out if you put in data that's all zeros. Because when we gave the encoded sample, which was all zeros, what we got out was the same 3 states. So I think it's like Massachusetts, Washington, Alabama. Which is what I'm getting out of my... Could it be my data validation? Because one thing that it could be is if I have, so when I'm doing my data validation, I'm mapping inputs to the slots, and because I'm doing a left align, if the slot names are wrong, then the column names will be wrong, which means that they won't be mapped to anything in the left align, so it will be filled with zeros. Oh, it could be my data validation. All right. Because here's the thing, I don't want to go to all the work of, you know, format user interest. Well, all right. I'm going to just leave myself a to-do because it's about time for my live coding to wrap up for today. Wonderboy says, I'd love to start coding along with you and wonder how, when, where to join. Do you talk about this at the start of your streams? I mean, you can, I'm not going to stop you from coding along at home. This is not a collaborative editor the way it's set up now. It might be something I could look into in the future. Probably not for this project, though, just because I do have, again, data I'm not allowed to share, so I wouldn't want to give access to folks. Enrique says, WSL2 is much better, still requires Docker for desktop for our containers. Yeah. Docker. It's so helpful when it's good, but it's just, it's got so many moving parts, y'all. I've spent so much time this year already just thinking about containers. It's good. It's, I'm learning a lot. Yeah. To do. Check this mapping. I think it's leading to mismatched column names. So I will do that. All right. The other thing I'm going to do is just delete this real quick. Peace out. Fantastic. And then there we go. Change these so it will still work. So I think we have discovered some useful things. To review what we did, first of all, oh yeah, okay, sure. Wonderboy says, just to do on my own, so the easiest way to do that would be to follow along on the GitHub. I'll just post the link for you real quick. And this one is posted on my GitHub, because I'm doing it for work, but it's kind of a personal project. And again, can't share the data. Oh, GitHub link, there you go. Yeah. Enrique says, not so funny using NVIDIA Docker runtime and its dependencies. Ooh. That sounds like a lot. What was I doing? Something. Anyway, Ayush says, can you suggest some resources for learning coding NLP? Your videos are great, but nothing is better than coding yourself. Yeah. I would say that a good sort of getting started resource is the Jurafsky and Markin text, speech and language processing. It is available online for free. I should just add like some links to my homepage. It's a question I get a lot, and I think it is helpful to share expertise. Also, Tidy Text, which is in R, has a really nice sort of code-along format that I recommend. And also, Julia and Dave are great. So, really good work, very easy to follow, I think. All right, so what we have done, the big thing what we did is we got, well, I say the big thing. It was very easy and straightforward. I don't think I needed to dedicate a whole live stream to it in retrospect. But we have our assistant up in Rasa X. So we have, as you can see, some test conversations that we did. We wrote our tests. It took like 4 minutes. It was great, super fast and easy. They were added to our, or I guess will be added to our I don't know. I think I probably need to deal with my, do I need to push? Yeah. Yeah, okay. I'll push in a bit. I do want to figure out what's up with my directory structure, because this is not the directory structure I expected it to look like. And also, if this is the current directory structure, how did Rasa work? You know? Because it's expecting everything, it's expecting the top level folder to look like this. I don't know. I'm very confused. Also, I deleted this README because it's not accurate. Yeah, I think I'm in version control limbo right now and just need to spend some time working on it. Yeah, so we imported imported our assistant to Rasa X. We wrote some tests. We interacted with it. The next thing we're going to need to do is get our action server up and running so that we can run our classifier. And also figure out why it's wrong, why it's always treating every input as empty, which is not what we are looking for. We are looking for it to treat the input data as input data and use that to affect its classification. So, project for the future. Like I mentioned, usually I stream. Also, Thursday we read papers. Friday we do more live coding. This week it's a company holiday. I'm not going to be in today or tomorrow. I posted about that on YouTube, and I'll update my Twitch as well. So I'm out for the week. Well, I got other stuff to do work-wise, but I'm out for streaming for the week. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your week, a great weekend. If you've got nice weather, spend some time enjoying the weather. And I will see you next Wednesday. Talk to you then. Bye.